Okay, hello everyone just joining stream, everyone watching things back on the VOD. Depending on when you watch it, it will either be here on Twitch or on YouTube, and this is a different format for me saying things for some reason. I don't know why. But hello, welcome to another stream, and welcome to something very different today. Um, if you've been here before, then you should probably know this, but if not, and this is your first time here, I have sort of debated previously during stream about, um, let's say, just streaming game development because, well, it's what I studied back at university. It's what I want to do as a career, and while I want to do it like more in the future, like stream game dev, at the moment I'm merely experimenting with things while I get the sort of hang of how things will go with this, because I don't know how things will go with the stream today, because it is very different format from what I would normally be used to, and also for this particular stream or type of stream in general, uh, I have done something completely different. So sorry about that. Normally, for streams, I would just have the singular, like, stream overlay window, like, just this one, like, the singular scene in OBS, where you just have everything on here. However, because I want to hop between doing stuff in Unreal Engine's editor, because I'm using Unreal Engine for this, because steadily learning it, steadily getting used to things, and I'm getting better with it, though there's still things I need to learn. Uh, and I'll be hopping between this and also the code editor, which normally I would have been using Visual Studio for this, but I'm going to be doing something completely different, and I'm going to be testing out JetBrains Rider, because I've had a thing to use JetBrains Rider for a little while, though I haven't had the chance to actually use it and take advantage of it because, well, I don't know. I just haven't. Also, Ryder is asking me to trust the solution because I guess this is a verification thing that it does. Um, but yeah, because of that. Oh, hello, Heater. Hello. Welcome to the stream, and also, I'm still setting some things up, so I'm kind of in the middle of explaining things. So, because I'm hopping between the editor and I'm hopping between Visual Studio for like coding and stuff, because I don't want it to just. Oh, right. Ow. I guess that was spam. Ah, right. Right, but thank you for that, Heater. Thank you for the swift hopping in. Though to be fair, I wasn't paying too much attention to things, but yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah, now I remember. Yes, so hopping between the editor and the code. Because of that, I have a second window for this, but of course I need to actually. Where is code capture? Because I made a whole other browser source for getting. There we go. I need to clear these notifs because this is uh from here. IDE settings. There. But now I have basically a duplicate scene for this. So one for viewing the code and one for going back to the editor, which is pretty neat. I like the setup a lot because it helps due to the fact that I don't have a dual monitor setup. So this does work in a way. Wait, dynamic program. This is not active. Riderlink plugin. Riderlink is not installed. Ah, no! I gotta install a plugin. Ah! I'm guessing this is what happens when I don't actually use this code editor to actually do anything. But also, because Dragon basically kind of said, like, it should be okay to kind of use things like, because she normally uses, like, just kind of just Nintendo music quietly for, like, her tier list or her art streams, and she said that it would be okay. I'm just gonna crank on some, like, the relaxing music from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 in the background, so let me find the... and there we go. Also, let me know if, like, the background music is, like, too loud or if it needs to be turned up, because I am very, very, very unsure about this, so... But if you're just joining, hello, I'm still waiting for this one thing to be set up. I did not realize that I would also need this plugin to be installed into the engine, though I guess I should have known, but that's what happens when I just stick to Visual Studio and not use a thing that everyone likes using, because apparently Rider is a much faster thing when it comes to compiling code for Unreal, so I really should have been trying this out a whole lot sooner. But in terms of what I plan to get done today, because I feel like it's important to maybe outline a little bit of an agenda. Honestly, I'm not expecting an incredible amount to be done today on stream. I'm expecting, like, the rough basics and trying to figure out where the hell I'm going with this project. Because rather than taking an existing project that I've been working on, like one that I've been helping a mentor of mine with, I can't exactly show that off because of, like, non-disclosure stuff. Because of that, I decided that it would be fun if I just go ahead and tackle just trying to do a whole new project from scratch, and maybe doing this project on stream will be motivation enough to work on it. And who knows, maybe stream is not the only moment that I will be using to work on this particular project. Maybe I'll just work on it outside of, well, just streams in general. But again, like, as I said, I've been wanting to do this for quite a long time. Like, quite a long time, but I have been very hesitant for it for the most part, because, well, it's like a case of what would I do, how well would it go, who would, like, check things out, and all that jazz. But I decided that since I already did something along the lines of stepping out of, like, my comfort zone, and I'm not really going to speak about that here, but maybe, like, to people who know me, I'll talk about it in DMs, because, well, I feel like it was a big step for me personally today. But but all that aside, because I already kind of did something, stepping out of the comfort zone and finally getting something off of my chest, I decided, you know what, I may as well go ahead with this and actually do this, because this is what I want to do. Also, like, completely unrelated note, because when has any sort of spiel I've done for the most part ever really been on the note of what the hell is happening right now? All I'm seeing right now is so I don't know if there's like anyone else who's seen this little, I guess, phenomenon. Engine symbols may be missing. So it's saying it's ready to use with the engine now, but it's still installing all of it, like, properly. But as I was saying, I don't know how many people are aware of this phenomenon, but also apologies for the display capture sizes, because I know that will probably bug you, Heat, but I genuinely can't help what the hell happened with Unreal and Ryder when it comes to the size of their display captures. I don't know what happened. Like, I genuinely don't know what's going on with this. Like, why is this smaller when I've kind of stretched out horizontally to the same size? Like, I have no idea. But anyway, I keep getting sidetracked from what I was talking about. So, a few days ago, there was, like, a tweet from one account that was talking about, oh, when, like, Chilean broadcasts started airing the Star Wars movies, they didn't want to cut to, like, ad breaks, so they started seamlessly stitching them in, and I don't know how true this idea is. I don't know how true this concept is, but since that initial, like, tweet, everyone has been doing, like, not everyone, but a lot of people have been doing their own parodies. Like, everyone has been doing their parodies of saying, oh, this has happened. Hello, I'm back, what's happening? Oh, hello back, I am Tails, but... but still, as I'll just quickly go over it again here. So, like, a few days ago, I don't know if you saw this, but there was the one tweet that was saying, oh, yeah, I already know you can tell that I don't know why the display capture is like this. I already said I don't know why it's like this. And you want to know the most annoying part of this? Like, I've stretched it horizontally to, like, basically what you would normally expect from my streams, but vertically, like, it just doesn't want to adjust properly. And and you want to know the funny thing? This is what happens when I switch over to the stream scene where it has my code editor. Do you notice how vertically it's longer? Do you want to know how annoying that is? Because it annoys me a lot. Like, look. Somehow, same size horizontally, but it is larger vertically. I don't know. I have not, like, manually resized things vertically or horizontally. I just dragged things out diagonally, and I don't know what the hell happened. So, unless there's something I'm missing that I actually did do. But that sucks. it's bugging me. So, I think I might try and fix this. Properties? Oh, now it's generating the project files. It's actually generating the project files because it finished installing the plugin. Right, there we go. Right, main capture, properties. Yeah, I know. I was dragging from the corners. Oh. Oh, wait, no. But when I resize... What? I am running the latest version, yeah. But if I resize it like this, like, it centers it. But it doesn't properly scale, like, things vertically until I drag it out diagonally. Which annoys me. So I've got to reposition, like, this particular capture. And I was wondering what was going on, because... Like, if I... Like, now it's looking a bit more like it. Kind of, but it's not exact. Oh, I hate that. I really hate that. That bugs me a lot, but I can't do anything about it because I try and try and try, but it doesn't want to seem to correct itself. I like, if only I knew, then this wouldn't be a problem, but it is, so I'm gonna have to deal with it for the time being, but not to be horribly disgruntled. Also, hopefully the sounds of some of the calming Xenoblade Chronicles music is a nice little compliment to this stream, because I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do the just, yeah. Right. But that's still generating project files. But anyway, before we went on the spiel of what kind of source is it, it's a display capture source. Like, it's not a browser source or anything, it's just a display no, not display, window capture. That's the one. It's a window capture. If it was a display capture, it would be capturing everything, and that would not be good. Silly me. I was getting things mixed up, but yeah, but basically, in terms of how things are displayed, this is what's happening with the window captures right now, and I don't know what's going on. So anyway, back to, right, I'm trying to remember where like I left off before I dove into the problems plaguing me with the overlay. I think it's generated the project files now. Yeah, it has. It's generated all the project files. So now I can probably get on with coding stuff. So, but before that, as I was going to explain, so I don't know if you've seen it here, or anyone else in chat, or anyone else watching back on the VOD, but like a few days ago, there was a tweet that someone was saying, oh, when the Star Wars trilogy, the original Star Wars trilogy, started broadcasting in Chile, they didn't want to cut to like ad breaks, so they started stitching them seamlessly into the films. I'm not holding shift though, that's the thing. But I don't know if you saw that tweet though, but since that tweet, everyone's been doing their own sort of thing with different movies or games even, and it's like, oh god, there's things everywhere now. But yeah, that's a thing I've noticed, but I don't think I did see that. Yeah, no, like, I don't know, I saw it, and since I saw that first one, whether it's been like someone's games or someone like some other movies or so on and so forth, people have been making their own parodies of that thing, and that's basically a lot of what I'm seeing in places on my timeline, which is like, it was funny at first, but now it's just kind of wearing out its welcome, if that makes sense. But I'm still getting sidetracked. So now that Ryder has like properly installed the Unreal Linker plugin, and I can properly sort of code and get all the like IntelliSense and the symbols and stuff, we can now properly get started with things. I also need to get rid of like the editor preferences window, because I had that open when I was changing from Visual Studio to Ryder. But in terms of what I plan to get done, I'm not too sure yet. I, of course, want to at least get like a proper player sort of programmed in, because with the third person template that Unreal gives, you're basically given like a standard like third person character that moves around, and while that's okay, you of course don't want to just use the third person template. You want to be able to just sort of build your own character from scratch from the character class, which is I don't know how interested people would be in the hierarchy of things in Unreal Engine, but basically, like, the hierarchy. I really feel like I need to, like, if I wanted to explain things, I'd have to use Clip Studio or just Paint to illustrate things in like hierarchy and Unreal, because I feel like it would be pretty good. Maybe I'll consider that in the future. But basically, Unreal's hierarchy is that you start off as like an object, like an empty. Right, so you start off as an object, okay, which is essentially a base class for every object in Unreal. Then you go down to actors. Oh, yeah, this is Unreal. This is not Unity. This is Unreal. But, so we start with objects, which is just a base class for literally everything. Then if we're talking about, like, characters, like players and stuff, then it goes down to actors, which are things that can be placed or spawned in the scene. And you would... Yeah, Unreal Engine did... But you'd go to actors, which can be placed in the scene. So, I don't know if it considers, like, the things... Yeah. So on, like, so on, such as... Like, I've lost where the mouse is. Oh, there it is. So, like, this little slope here, it's not like an actor class, but it's a static mesh actor. So that is a type of actor. Then if we go down to, like, things that you can move around, like, not necessarily the player or, like, an enemy AI, but we want to talk about, say, a thing that can move around, we have pawns. And pawns are basically actors that can just be possessed and controlled by either a AI controller or a player controller, and that just helps you, like, control a thing. And then going down, we just have character, and the character is just a pawn that can walk around, and it's basically just, for the most part, you're just going to use the character to make the player character, or if you're not making, like, say, a humanoid character and you're making, like, a vehicle or something, you'd use a pawn or an actor, like, either one of those. But that's basically, like, a bit of Unreal Engine's hierarchy, because when I say there's, like, a lot to go into in terms of... Also, I realize that the add C++ class is not showing on stream, which is kind of sad. It would be cool if it actually sort of showed up as well, but I am still kind of explaining how things work. So in terms of, like, where we're starting, we'll be starting with a player character. And in terms of what kind of game I want to make, I'm not too sure. Like, because this is a blank slate, there is a lot of directions that I could take this in. Either from, like, ideas I myself have, or if anyone has, like, any suggestions, then honestly, like, throw them my way, because sure, I can come up with some things myself, but at the same time, I don't mind receiving input from people as well, because maybe that may better inform decisions that I make and all that jazz. And also, always during streams, Twitch's iPhone apps decides to update when I'm trying to read chat, so I'm having to wait for it to update so I can read chat and keep up with things again, which is not the end of the world, but not great. It's mildly annoying. Not like a thing that will make me tear my hair out, but it happens a lot. Also, in terms of just things I see, like games and whatnot, I'm happy to see, like, a whole lot more sort of indie games appear on, like, the Twitter timeline. Because it's always cool to see what people do, what people can do, or what people are trying to start work on, saying, oh, this is my idea, and I'm going to try and work on it and see, maybe this can work. Or maybe that could work. I don't know what these things mean, but I like your funny words, Magic Man. You'll be hearing a lot of me talking about the funny words. And speaking about the funny words, I should actually make the player character class. So I'll just say TP character. No, TP underscore player character. That's what I'm naming the class. And I'm hoping that when I'm making this code that Ryder actually does this fairly quickly. Conflicting instance of Unreal build tool is already running. What is this prototype for? Well, not anything big or major in particular, but I'm just like hopefully motivating myself to make like a standalone project that I can include on my portfolio. And I feel like streaming this is also a good excuse to sort of get me to do things like at a slow pace. Not like, yeah, you must do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, but at a pace where it's manageable and I can at least say I've done this much and I'm not, tearing my hair out over not doing like the excess amount. But what's this? This is using Visual Studio 2022 children. Right. Maybe if I can't, right, I'll cancel live coding because I think whenever I have to, like, I don't know how much different it is using Rider compared to Visual Studio, because in Rider, like, the code is here now, but in terms of, like, things appearing in the editor, it won't appear yet. So, I don't know, this is this the thing to build, or is this refresh solution? This doesn't tell me what it does. This is run. Is this a drop down? This is the installation settings. Right. Right, so build tool. I think this is how I have to do it for Rider, that I have to go in and just build from the editor, which is kind of frustrating, because normally when I make a class in like a Visual Studio based project, it would just do the live coding normally, but it still just uses the Visual Studio 2022 toolchain anyway. That's okay then. This is fun. Waiting is fun, you know? I wonder, this is a thing I need to look up. So, live coding UE5 Rider. Is this build select projects? This is taking its time. It always takes its time, which is surely there has to be a way to speed this up, because I was told that JetBrains Rider in terms of compiling is very fast in terms of compiling the Unreal project. Can I cancel? I can cancel. Right. So I'm gonna confirm exit from Rider, and that's just gonna close everything. Also, why is sad music in my Xenoblade, my chosen Xenoblade ambient music? Where is Frontier Village? There. That's better. Right. I really said, hey, you're sad. No. Stop playing the song. It makes me sad. Right. Gonna go... prototype. Binaries. Intermediate. Saved. And now I'm gonna do a classic... generate... Is it really just doing this? I think there's still some things that I need to work out in terms of kinks with the project. It's a bit weird. Or, not so much the project itself, but, well, using Rider with Unreal, because not entirely used to it. And this is a learning experience in more ways than one. Of course, for, like, my first attempt of a stream of this kind, like game dev or anything sort of, like, create... Tom realized something. What did you realize, and is it terrible? And hit by ad. It silenced you. Give me a minute. I am holding. I am waiting. It's taking its time to recompile and reload, because it always does this. It's... Right, so... I think one thing I would definitely have to do is... U5 logo. But I'm trying to look things up. Work in... Okay, so... Your big thing that you realized, Heat, what is it? Also... Oh, yeah, it's showing it, but... Don't worry to people stopping by, there is still... Is your Unreal window full screen? No. It is not a full screen thing, because it's like... Is the fact that it's not like a proper full screen thing, but like a windowed application, the reason why it's having problems? Like, is that the reason why it's having problems? Because it's windowed? Oh, right. That's frustrating. Especially considering the fact that I have to hop between two. That's weird. Hold on. Properties. Window capture uses the size dimensions of the window. So you might have to free transform it to fit nicer. Ah, okay. Wait, why is it? No, I don't want the content browser to be focused on. Get in here. There we go. So, right, there we go. That code should be in there now. Yeah, this is taking a lot longer to get because there's things that I have to write. So, editor preferences. Where is live coding? So, enable live coding. Am I blind? There we go. Okay, so now you right, so free transform is whoops. Hold alt. Where is it? I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Hold shift and use right, it's shift and the transform points. That gets it there, and then shift. There we go. That's looking a bit better, but it's not exact, like... and then I need to open Rider back up again to get that sorted. But, where is... Twitch character? That's TP player character. There we go. I gotta wait for Rider to load back up, though it shouldn't take as long considering the fact that I've opened it once. The thing is loaded, though it has been installed. It's currently not compatible with the version of... The current build is... okay. Right. So, now that we're getting properly into it, as I said before, the direction for this project, I am not entirely sure yet, but third person will be like a bit of the main aim. Though, that's the bit rate going. Why? That was awful. I'm hoping that this is not one of those streams where the internet decides to play funny and die, because otherwise I'll be very upset. There we go. Right, that's... okay, that happened. Oh, that's what happened to this. I hate that. But, to people still here, sorry, welcome back. For some reason, and I don't know why this happened, but things just completely kind of died, and that's also looking terrible. That is just, it's not completely killed the motivation to do things, but it's definitely a big sort of hit to what the hell happened. But I know I'm alive. I live. What happened? I'm just... What the fuck? Just gotta make sure that... Oh yeah, so to reiterate, the funny blue cubes are just kind of there. They just kind of exist as a thing in this map. And you can just kind of push them around. They don't really do much. They're just here. But... now, back to what we were going to do before that whole little incident. If we switch back over to Ryder, we're going to work on getting bits of the player set up. So, for some background with Unreal, like, I know quite a bit of Unreal Engine, and I know quite a bit of C++, but every so often, because I'm having to... well, not really because I'm having to, because I'm still in the way of learning things, I periodically forget what things I need to write in order for a specific thing to actually be implemented. Like, for example, there's a certain sort of style of input that I want to be able to use for the player, which is called enhanced input. And basically what that means is that, oh, instead of just regular press this, press that, and so on and so forth, I can actually tweak how the input works. So if I want an input thing to only happen when, I don't know, when, for example, the player holds like a certain button or a certain key after like a few seconds, then I can have it do that. But that, of course, requires including the correct things to be able to set that up. Because, I mean, this is kind of the way in like, Unity and C#, but that's like, oh, you're using this library of code, you're using this library of code, and so on and so forth. In terms of Unreal, and in terms of C++ in general, a lot of it is to do with using... like, well, using these, as you can see here, these include statements. And what they're linking to is essentially a header file. And, of course, if you don't know what those are, and you're not really versed in what code is, don't worry, it took me a while when I was learning C++ to understand the whole sort of thing with header and, like with header and the actual CPP files. But header files basically define, oh, this exists here. Like, this, it's essentially defining what a thing is, but it doesn't actually define what a thing does or how it happens. So, for example, I could write a thing here, say void, and void is basically, like, for people who don't know, void is like a I'll explain in a moment. So, say, I'll just name it an arbitrary name like super jump. So now you can see that this thing here exists. It says what it is, but it doesn't actually define how it does things. For example, but you also use it to define like properties and values and stuff for a character, say like their health, or if you wanted to set a custom sort of movement speed, then you could do that as well. But and like void is like a return type. Return type is like, oh, does this method or thing, what this block of code is doing, does it return like a value? Does it do anything? I know this is definitely lost on some people because not too many people are code savvy, but this is me trying to explain a little bit of some basics of like of the C family of... No! I'm not. But I'm just saying, as a general thing, like, there's quite a few people who don't necessarily understand how this all works. Because a lot of people who play games just kind of don't really, like, it's like, oh, we play the games, but they understand that things happen with it, but it's a lot of the case of, wow, there is a lot to talk about here. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, this was a whole spiel about header files. Basically, header files link to stuff like this. Yeah, don't, like, if you're not developing them, you don't really have to question, like, the interiors of how they work. They just do. But for someone like me, who actively learns to develop and stuff, I always have to try and question how the things work. So, for example, like, this is a header file. This whole thing where we're defining, like, this stuff and that stuff, this is a header file. The actual C++ file, as I said, does things with, like, some of the things defined here. So, this method, begin play, is called when, like, the game level starts, like, wherever this character exists. And this super begin play thing, I won't go too much into it, this basically calls the thing from the parent class, which is, if you remember my thing from earlier, like, this is a child of the character class, which is a child of the pawn class, which is a child of the actor class, and all that jazz. But this is basically calling, like, the character class's version of begin play, because otherwise this method won't work. Same with tick. Tick only works if you call, like, the original version of it. And that's how that stuff works. But as I was saying with the header files, I have to include stuff like these, because if I want to be able to make the particular, like, input style where the player can hold, like, a button and then have a thing happen, or something happens when they release a key or a button happen, then I have to use enhanced input, and enhanced input is stored in, like, in part, some of these, but also other header files, which I'll just include in the C++ file, because there's a whole sort of thing with, like, yeah, your basic, kind of like that, it's kind of stored in the balls, but instead of, like, actual balls, it's just, like, a thing that just sets a blueprint, if that makes sense. Right, so I'm gonna grab a thing that basically labels, oh, this thing is this property and it belongs in this category and you should do it with this stuff with it to make it, like, accessible. So class u input mapping context pointer. Yeah, it shouldn't make sense. It really shouldn't make sense. But saying that, oh, this is all stored in the balls, like, it actually kind of does. Player default mapping context. And then also this, class u input. Also with Rider, using Rider, because don't ask why I had to do this for Visual Studio's coding, but in order for, like, to reduce the compile, like, the time it takes to compile in Visual Studio, because it takes so long for some reason, I just turned off, like, the ability to sort of autofill what I'm typing out in terms of classes and stuff. And while it does kind of help a little bit, it's still painfully slow. So for the longest time, just saying, oh, this is this, and that, and I didn't have the autofill. So having the autofill back in Rider is very nice. So, whoops. Also, let me know if it's a bit difficult to see, like, the code. I can zoom in as well, just, like, right there. That should be easier to read now, because of how zoomed out things are. It does make it a bit difficult to see sometimes. Also, I'm going to take this method from, like, another class in another project I was working on, and I'm going to put it here, because, like how there's, like, the thing that happens when the game starts, I did not mean to press build
Or is this saving on the fly? I don't know what this is doing. So that's happening in the background right now. But in terms of stuff like that thing happening when the game starts, this thing happens when a player when a character lands. So if you wanted to say have like a character play a sound effect when they land back on the ground, or if you want them to detect like a specific thing when they land on a thing, like say you have a crate that you want the player to break when they land on it, then you can use this method to check for that, if that makes sense. So this is useful. This is useful for stuff. In another project I was trying to work on, because I was trying to work on like an Unreal Engine version of a project I was working on in Unity before the whole Unity fiasco, I was using onlanded because I found out how to have, like, when you hit an enemy, because I was doing, like, the 2D sprite stuff, have, like, the enemy sort of sprite spin, like, in a screwed, like, tornado thing, like in Tekken. And that's pretty cool. And then onlanded would just reset it so that they're, like, it's rotated back to normal and it's not, like, turn to the left, turn to the right, or, like, flattened. So it's helpful. It's very helpful. So that's a thing that happens. So also from the one thing, where is it? It's I made a better definition for it in the actual player class that I made for it. That's not it. Character movement components. I mean, to be fair, I'm gonna need some of the bits from this. So camera input settings. Basically, I'm gonna need a lot of this. I'm gonna need a lot of the includes to put into the C++ file. Which is a whole lot of stuff that sometimes I can remember it, and sometimes I just do not. So, I'm throwing them all in here. Wait. It's doing it on the fly. I think that's what hot reload is. Which sometimes causes problems and sometimes it doesn't. But public, protected. I should also make a private section for like variables, which basically variables are like little bits of data. That froze for a moment. That's not fun. So of course I'm having to use a thing as a reference just to remember things. So I'm going to drag this back out and put this in here as well, so that this is here. So, class U spring arm component pointer, camera boom. And no, it's not a camera that goes explode, although it would be funny if it was. Class U camera component pointer main camera. And if you're wondering why I start things off with I go make tea, I go make tea, enjoy your code, Cody man. Yeah, I will. I will enjoy doing this, because I do like, even if it's just kind of idly doing something, I do enjoy doing this. So, and yeah, it'll be pretty good. Be pretty good to do. But just gonna get rid of some notifs that I haven't read, because, well, yeah. So defining the main camera and the camera boom, because the camera boom, essentially, it's very important for the fact that, like, for, like, a third-person camera, if I switch back into the engine view via OBS, there we go. If I go back into the engine view, and if I can find mannequin UE4 animations rig, where is it? It's third person Right, so the third person project by default uses this third person character as like the player that you play in the scene. And it's going to take a moment to load it up because my PC is getting on in age. It's been 4 years since I initially built this thing, and about 4 years since I upgraded its components, so its components are getting on in age. But I do wish it would actually include like the loading stuff in the OBS like display, because it would sell the fact that I am actually doing things, but I am waiting for things mostly, if that makes sense. Uh just to check. Yep, there we go. But for some reason, it becomes like a minimized separate window all the time, even though I would like for it to be a window that is part of the editor. Though also for some reason, sometimes when I'm trying to drag it in place, it takes forever. Like, why? Oh, there we go. I also feel like it's not entirely used to having OBS and the Unreal Engine open at the same time, so I think my PC is trying to adjust to things a lot. Let's see, CPU's on 1.7, 1.6%. So it's not like it's using a major, like, it's just that Unreal is a hog for the CPU. And now I can't focus back into Unreal Engine on, like, my PC because it's trying to do that process of switching from the minimal blueprint view to the full blueprint view. Like, god damn it, this is when I want to try and show stuff, and then things have like a little bit of a... Oh, there we go. That took its time. So to the people who don't know, so as you can see, like from the default third person character that the engine gives you for the third person template, you see this here, this camera boom right here. This camera boom is basically like an invisible arm that is attached to the character. And what this does, it controls like the position of the camera relative to like where the player it's attached to, or the object it's attached to is. So, and obviously you can change like its offset position, you can change its distance, you can change like its rotation as well by going into here and like rotating it like so, where Unreal just decides to freeze for some reason. And also it's not displaying its rotation, displaying it rotating. That's weird. Normally it does. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's a bit weird sometimes, but but then again, the camera boom's rotation in this case for this character is controlled by the mouse, which, if you remember what I was doing before with setting up like the inputs that I want, there is... Oh, that's the wrong thing. I really need to remember which windows I'm using for stuff. But if you see in the header file here, where I was defining look action, for enhanced input, and I think input in general, if you want to have a camera move around the player, then you need to basically define, like, I unplugged my headset, but I can't hear music at the moment, but, basically, you need to define an action for, like, for enhanced input, you just need to define the action for it. In, like, regular input, you just go into the input settings and you define, like, I think it's, like, an input axis value that you define, and then you sort of reference that in, like, the code and stuff, but no need to do that here. All you really have to do is just kind of define, oh, this is the action, and then bind this action to this event, and la-di-da-di-da. We'll get more into that when I actually set up the method for look and Right, so protected. I wish it indented properly, because that's frustrating. I like having my code indented because it makes it neat. So void, and what I'm defining first is move. So const f input action value address, and then we're just saying value. The following errors cannot unable to open the file. What do you mean you're unable to? Is it because it started build? Ah, right. This is what's happening. This is what I have to get used to. So this is what people meant when they said, like, it will compile just like Unity, because it does it just as you're working through it. Ah, right. So that is move. Void jump, which is a simple... No, I don't want to override... Ah, goddamn, I'm instinctively pressing control... Oh, hello back. But I'm instinctively pressing control save, because... Normally, when I just go along doing things, I'll just call it stop jump and not stop jumping, then I'd click save, but because of how Rider functions compared to Visual Studio, especially with like live coding turned off and hot reload basically being constantly active, it will just continuously... Following errors are kind of... Right, so I'll just cancel that build for now. So stop jump, and then I want the look method. The look method basically is also void look, and then action value and value. Right, generate definition. I'm going to work on sorting out stream elements while your stream is on in the background. Yeah, at the very least you're getting on with it. Yeah, I'll close that blueprint in the editor because I was just briefly showing off things. But yeah, good point for the spring arm and the main camera. Like the spring arm is attached to the player, and then the camera is attached to the spring arm, and then you just basically have that move around with the look method. So it took me way too long to make a new PayPal account, but I can finally do other stuff now. I can't remember what I did for like payments and stuff for me. That's concerning if I can't remember. I feel like I should definitely rename this to Player Jump, because otherwise it's just going to cause issues, and that just gets through right quickly. I like that a lot. Unlike Visual Studio, where it'd take forever. Member function can be made... What do you mean by this? Stop player jump. Generate definition. And then look is that other method that we defined there. And I'm trying to think because... And now I'm going to refresh my memory on how to set up the enhanced input, because so I'm going to show you how it would happen like with the old input system. So with the old input system, you'd have to go to player input component, which is like how the player sort of controls the character. And you'd have to either bind action if it was like just a simple button press, bind axis, which you would do if you were like using it for movement or using it for like the mouse controls or stuff. Gesture, I think, is for touch screens. Bind key just takes a regular key, and you would do that, and that's also that's a gesture event, but that's binding it to the touch screen, and that's bind axis key. That's how you would do it, like with the old input system. And while, like, if you learn it, it's easy to get used to, it wouldn't be as dynamic as the enhanced input component. So what we have to do, we have to set up an enhanced input component. I'm just going to call it enhanced input. And I'm going to say, let's check that. Cast checked. View enhanced input component, and it just completes it. It just completes it all. I love that. I love that so much. And having the shorthands is just, it's bliss. It's bliss. It's lovely. I sound way too excited for that. So let's say if like enhanced input is actually valid, so if this has actually been cast properly, variable enhanced input can be moved to an if statement. I mean, I could, but I'm just doing it as a standard. So if this enhanced input actually works, then we'd say enhanced input bind action. No, wait, no, I'm wrong. It's... No, wait, no, it is. I am silly. So we would get U input action, which would be, if we were doing this for the move, we would do move action. And so E trigger event. And this would be, for the movement, you'd use triggered, because if you're doing movement, then it's continuously triggered. So you can constantly get the value from it. Then we'd say this, and then we would say ATB underscore player character. Having the shortcuts just makes this so much easier and way less menial to do, and that makes me happy. So I'm getting way too giddy to have something that makes it way easier to sort of quickly move through things and not having to take as much time to write code. Jump action. E trigger event triggered. This. And where is player jump? Player jump is there. That doesn't feel right. Oh, there's a second, whoops! That was silly. So, enhanced input. Bind action. Look action. E trigger event. I think it's also triggered for this as well. Yep. This, and then at look. So that binds that and that. Ow! No, why did I type a random Q? You're not supposed to be there. I'm sorry. Bind action. And so to explain like binding actions, binding inputs and stuff, you can either just have it to just only sort of have the one thing when it happens, or when it's like on, like when it starts, when it's ongoing and stuff. You can choose to just have like only once for each of those. No wait, I'm not making any sense. Let me get a drink and also my tablets for that, because they need to be taken, but In terms of like binding actions, you can either just choose to only bind it to the one thing that you choose. So, for example, for the look method or look action, you can just only have like things bound to it being triggered, and then have the method bound to that. However, you can also have things bound to another one if you so choose. So, for example, if we said cancelled, so if you stopped the input for this action event, so for this particular action, you can have another method that is called when it's cancelled. So right here, stop player jump, which is what I made for when the event or when the action stops. So, and normally if you were trying to do like hold like the button or hold the button to jump, you would just have that say, oh, stop applying the force, and then just have them fall instead. But obviously I haven't worked out a proper sort of hold the input to jump thing yet, because of course there's still bits I'm learning. But if I wanted to make a platformer game in Unreal, because you can do that, people have been doing that, I would very much want to actually implement that, because that makes jumping quite fun. Like, because rather than just having like a static height that you sort of jump to, it makes jumping like more under your control. And I think that's the reason why it's so widely used, because of how much control it gives. And this is me just going into the philosophy of why people would use like press hold to jump instead of just tap and then it just jumps to fixed height. But yeah, that's just that's those bits set up. So so in terms of jump, so because I'm going to set that up because that's literally the easiest thing to set up, all we'd have to do is just call a character, which of course is the base class for this class, and we just call jump. And now you see the reason why I decided to call it like player jump instead of just jump, because then it would just call the super for that method. I mean, I could do that and then still have what I want specifically to happen to this character to happen like alongside it, but I feel like it's a lot better to just do this and not trigger the super for the method, because otherwise, say you have a wall run, it will just trigger that when you're trying to sort of trigger the wall run jump, and that causes problems. So, a character jump, and if I wanted to fit in any other sort of functionality for it, then I can do that. So, next is move, because this is vitally important. So, F vector 2D, and we call it move value, and then we pause value dot get, and it's in F vector 2D. We essentially get the value from the input event for this one, because it's like the movement input for like left and right and forward and back. It will be split into like two parts for like forward and then right, and then we basically get that value from like the actual action, store it in here, and then we can just do whatever we need to in terms of, so if controller so equals to null pointer, I will just get this little bit set up next. Whoops. I'm also forgetting that it keeps doing things automatic. Oh, it's controller and get control rotation. That's my fault. Then again, I'm thinking to myself, why would I use, like, check if the controller exists if I'm not going to use get control rotation? So const. . 'Cause F rotator, your rotation equals F rotator. So we get 0, get rotation dot your, and then 0. So in pitch, rotation dot your, and in roll is 0. Right. So that's like getting like where the character would turn left and right. That's basically what your rotation is. So const F vector, and the F vector for this is the forward direction. So we're basically getting so forward direction is F rotation. F rotation matrix. Get unit axis. Oop, it's E axis. X. There's still some bits I'm trying to wrap my head around in terms of how some things function, but I know it's like taking, like applying a transform or something along those lines, using like matrices, which I'm still learning. Like matrices, and all that jazz are very broad and complex thing. And here's the thing, I'm trying to get through a book on like 3D math for game development. It's slow because I've been busy with other things, but God, like, I'm only at the start of this book, and there's already a lot that I just did not know about. Like, did you know, like, in terms of advanced maths, I'm not, like, when I say Sigma, I'm not talking about Sigma male, because why the hell would I talk about Sigma male? But when I refer to Sigma, I mean the Greek letter Sigma. And basically, for people who don't know what that is, which is always possible, the Greek letter Sigma is basically just, think of like a 3 but flipped in reverse and more sort of jagged than curved. That's basically what the Sigma letter is. Move value. This is move value dot y, and then the second one is the adding the movement for the right direction, which is right direction, and then move value dot x. But what I learned, and this is the thing I never knew, is that in maths, Sigma is used basically as a sort of, like, oh, you're just taking the sum of values in this range, like starting from this value, like this number, and going through this range, and it's used. Then there's me wanting to go into like a big spiel about like stuff that is done with vectors and stuff, because vectors are a big part of game development, like not just in terms of like the graphics rendering pipeline, but also physics and movement and everything as well. But I would be here for so long trying to explain, oh, this is how I'm learning this, and this is why I understand about it now, and like I wouldn't be getting anything of this done, which is not good. So back onto this, we now need to do the look method, and we're getting another F vector 2D, so look axis vector, and we're getting this from the value once again, so value dot get, and we're getting an F vector 2D. just to make sure it converts properly. And this will also, of course, be sort of looked into when I get to it in the actual editor. So if controller, ooh, no, that's not what I want. Controller, it's not equal to null pointer. So add controller your input and add controller pitch input. Oh wait, I clicked on OBS. Your input. So your would be the look axis vector dot x, because because as I said, your rotation is just basically you're looking left and right. You're turning left and right. So because of that, we're getting the x, which will always represent the left and right, and then add controller pitch input. And just to explain, like, just like your, like, pitch can be simply explained, pitch basically just means you're rotating something up and down. So you're looking up and down in this case. Look axis vector dot y, and y will always be the up and down. So in terms of, like, looking, so that stuff is set up. However, there is another important step that needs to be done. And I feel like this is kind of like, oh, I'm just doing this as a step-by-step and I really should be getting on with things more. But I do like rambling and talking about this stuff, because at the same time of like, oh, I'm just sharing what I know, and it's like proving how much I enjoy doing this, it's also kind of, right, am I saying the right thing? Is my knowledge actually correct? And if it's not, then I can always look up and say, oh, this is how it actually goes. But so I don't mind doing this in this kind of slow burn fashion. Oh wait, not camera boom equals camera boom. That wouldn't make sense. So we need to, like, it's not enough that you spring arm component text. Whoops. But it's not enough that we define, like, the variables for, like, the camera boom, spring arm, and the actual camera. You have to actually, like, create them as a sub-object for the class within, like, this thing here. This thing right here is it's called a constructor. It basically just can be used to set up, like, say, default values for a object, or also used to create things that belong to the object, like before, like, runtime and stuff, or when you're just creating a blueprint for, like, an object. But I'll get to that in a bit. So whoops. Whoops. And now, big part of this is setting up attachments. So setting up attachments means that things are attached properly, so they're like, it's not like everything's all haphazardly like tacked onto an object. This is basically just making sure that it's properly sort of attached in the proper hierarchy. So we're attaching this to the root component, and simply put, root component basically is basically an object's origin, or a component that serves as an origin, and without it you can't place a thing into the scene. So target arm length. This basically, like, this isn't like the set in stone length of the spring arm from the player, like how far the camera back is, like the camera is back from the player, but it does set like a default one that is like set when this object is actually created as a blueprint in the editor. So you can sort of see how it looks, and then sort of decide, oh, if I want to have it be shorter or longer, then you can do that. So you can do that as well. And then camera boom, use pawn control rotation, true. Because what we want is when the... So to explain it for people who don't know, the player, the enemy AI are possessed by controllers. And in terms of the player controller, like the player controller basically detects like, oh, is this rotating? Is the mouse being moved, and is rotation being applied to this? So it will So the controller is rotated when like the move method is called. So if I go back down, where this says add controller yaw input and add controller pitch input, you're basically adding or subtracting depending on like if it's a positive or negative like rotation, like look movement value. And depending on where, like what direction it's rotating in or how much it's rotating in that direction, that will just change the rotation of the controller. And that is basically being applied to the camera boom. So if I was to go back into the engine itself and use like the default third-person character as an example, this isn't like the actual camera being rotated, but it's the camera boom, like the red spring arm, like the invisible spring arm thing that's being rotated. And that's because that's because the rotation being applied to the player controller is being used by the spring arm. If the use pawn control rotation was turned off, then the spring arm wouldn't move at all. You just have a static camera that moves, like rotates with the player instead of rotating with like how the player moves the mouse, if that makes sense. So this is important to have. And now we set up the camera. And in order for it to be attached to the spring arm, so we pass the spring arm as its parent, so it's called camera boom in this case. We pass that in, and then we say we have to pass in like a name of the socket that it's being attached to, but there is like a default for this that is just universal for the spring arm component. So you say use spring arm component dot socket name or colon socket name, and that automatically attaches it to like the right point on the spring arm component, because you don't want it attached anywhere else. You want it basically just attached right at the end of the spring arm, which is where it needs to be. And then main camera b use pawn control rotation equals false. And the reason why we do this, as I said, is that like when the player moves their mouse or moves the right joystick, depending on what you're using for input, that rotates the spring arm. If I was to use pawn control rotation on the main camera, or the follow camera in this case, for this object, this doesn't affect it at the moment for some reason. Camera boom, because I think it's being overridden by the camera boom. So if I disable this, yeah, no, that's better. So if you like disable the spring arms, use pawn control rotation, and enable the cameras one, like as I said, remember, it will just be a sort of static camera. But because using control rotation is enabled for the camera here, you can move the camera around like this, but it's very disorientating, so you don't really want to do that. So I know like after like setting up the player, it won't actually be the thing that like the character that we use to test things, but we're just sorting that out anyway, just so it's like, oh, it feels awful. But That's the reason why we disable use pawn control rotation for the player's camera, for the actual camera and not the spring arm. Unless you're making, like, say, a side-scroller or a top-down game, in which case you don't want to be able to rotate the spring arm and you would just disable that as well. And these two are very important as well. Oh wait, I was supposed to say equals F rotator. I got ahead of myself and I did it wrong. So this is important, and I'll give another little demo for why this is important. So we'll go back into the editor, we'll go back into the blueprint. Oh god damn it, I popped it out of the thing by accident. So in the character class, there is a thing called the character movement component, and this is responsible for allowing the character to move normally. In the class we're making, for the character movement, we just set the character movement component's orient rotation to movement boolean to true. So basically saying, when the character is moving, please rotate, like, the character model to face the direction that it's moving in. Because otherwise, if we turn this off and compile, because we've got to do that, now, so we can move, like, the camera around normally, as usual, but watch what happens when we try moving around and we try to move in different directions. It will not rotate the character model to face where it's moving. It will just remain static and in place, and that looks very awkward. So, orient rotation to movement is set to true for that very reason. So, whoops, that's and these last three are also important because, whoops, that should not have been the, whoops, I keep making mistakes with typing. It's a little bit of a pitch, roll, and I need your, right. So that's all set. And this basically means, if this is set to false, this basically means that the player character will not be rotated based on how, like, the camera is being moved around or the controller is being rotated, which is very important. I guess you'd want that for, like, a first-person shooter game, perhaps, and you can do that for a first-person shooter game. That's probably what you would do for a first-person shooter game. But because we're doing, like, a third-person game, we don't really need this right now. So if anything, that's the basics for the player setup, so I need to remember how to build this again. Oh, there we go. And hopefully this doesn't take too long because, Ryder should be fairly quick with this. Also, I realize I did not switch back to Visual Studio. I really need, like, a hotkey to switch from, like, not Visual Studio, from Ryder to the engine and then back again. But I don't have that at the moment, so maybe for a future game dev stream I will set that up. Yeah. So feel like there was something that... Hmm. It takes its time. It always takes its time with compiling, and it really shouldn't. Hmm. Right. Why do you take so long? You shouldn't be taking so long. I'll click cancel for that for now. Hmm. Oh, that just does the same thing, but... Oh, compile failed. That's concerning. Conflicting instance of Unreal build tool is already running. Oh, we got the funny... Oh, yep, that's just... Oh, that's fun. Right. Oh, apparently that's vanished again. Oh, wait, no, that was because of... Oh, that's because I was clicking on that window. That was weird. Right, I'm gonna close Unreal. Because it likes to play funny sometimes. And it really shouldn't, but it does. So... hop back into Rider. I'm gonna give this a shot. And hopefully this... Unreal Link. There is a lot I'm learning at the moment with using Rider. This is very different from what I'm used to. Check, Control Alt Delete, Task Manager. Oh, right, so minimizing it really did not help. So, of course... Yes. Ah, right. Is this what I need to do? Oh, wait, I think it is. Oh, yep, no, there it goes. It's building. I have given up on stream elements. No! But you can always do it tomorrow, Heater. Do you want me to remind you to do it tomorrow? Or will you be good and not need to be reminded to do tomorrow? Yay! Okay, that's good. Also, right, so we got, like, the basic stuff for the player setup, like, for movement and the camera boom and stuff, but it's rebuilding this project that we have to wait for, which may take a little bit. There's so much I'm trying to learn with Ryder, and it's just... like, how do I make this quicker? That's my problem. If I do this, does it actually... No, it doesn't. That's sad. Right. Honestly, I feel like things are going pretty, like, kind of well, but at the same time, there's things that can be improved in terms of how things are going with stream. Like, of course, because I'm using a code editor that I'm not used to using, I'm obviously going to have problems. Because it's very different from how I would have done it before. So... but at the same time, there's a lot of waiting around, and that's not really fun. But... and I think this is one of the things I was anxious about when it came to stream game dev. I think the possibility of having to wait around so much, like with Unreal, because it wouldn't take so long with Unity, but of course Unreal, you have to build everything for the most part when you're trying to push code changes. And I guess that was the reason why, like, having Ryder do what it was doing before probably would have been the best solution, because... right, gonna exit Ryder, and I'm gonna do what I did before, which I don't want to have to keep doing this because it's gonna keep constantly making things pop off and then pop back in again. But is it because I got this open? I don't need this other, like, Visual Studio project open now, but of course it's gonna... never mind, it's not gonna take an eternity. Oh, that's not good. Uh... Yes, it is currently all yellow. I think the one thing I hate about the whole, like, when you're trying to rebuild things sometimes, because when you're completely refreshing, like, project files... Oh, no. Please don't tell me I bonked the fucking... Does it think that Rider is still open? It might. I don't know. That's not good. Why? Why? Check where file is open. Resource monitor. Because for some reason, I don't know why, but one of the important folders that need to be deleted in order to completely refresh a project, it's just not deleting it because apparently it's open in another process and I don't know why. And there we go. Conflicting instance of Unreal build tool is already running? What? It can't be! I closed the engine! Where is Unreal? Unreal. What the f... No, that doesn't help me. Da, 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 da. This is exactly what I want. This is not exactly what I wanted to have happen. But at the moment, I'm having to use Resource Monitor to forcibly end the process that apparently that file is being used by, which is just great, isn't it? I think that might have sorted it. There we go. There we go. See, that wasn't so hard, it's just that I panicked. That could have gone a whole lot better. Waiting for this is... I know I just complain a little bit, or quite a bit, but it's because I feel like if nothing is being... that's just another part about me. Right, so that first part is done. And now we're going to do this bit where we actually open the project. And then hopefully we'll have everything back. So at the moment, switching between the two scenes, there's literally no... Aside from that happening, that's gonna ask me to rebuild the modules. And with luck, that should all be sorted. Also, seeing like some news about like movies and whatnot lately, I know fairly recently there have been like the trailers for like Kung Fu Panda 4 going around, and I've been very, very skeptical about it because it's like the first three Kung Fu Panda movies I love a lot. They're brilliant, they're great. I mean, Kung Fu Panda 3 not so much as 1 and 2, but like those first three movies are special, really. But with Kung Fu Panda 4, as I said, I'm very skeptical of things. Oh, no, it could not be compiled. Why could you not be compiled? Oh dear. I don't think I did anything wrong in terms of the... in terms of how I set up, like, certain bits of the code and everything, so it shouldn't be having any issues. So, false, 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 false. Character movement component, da 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 da. Build will be executed when solution is loaded. Does it really need to load Linux? I should probably switch back to Rider for this because, yeah, it's back now. That's background task. See, that's entirely unrelated. That's... Of course it can't be attached to Unreal Editor at the moment, it's just... Term does not evaluate the function... Was I supposed to... There's something I'm missing here, isn't it? Ah, okay, right. I go into... Open with Notepad, so I'm not prodding on. Oh, yep, no, I messed up. I messed up entirely. Is it still running through this? Or is it done? I think it might be... I can't tell. There we go. And now this shouldn't be terrible. Because I actually corrected my mistake. Now, I don't know if that will just forcibly open the engine? Or if... Apparently it did not. So... And also, I completely forget that for some reason with display cap... Oh, no, not display. Window captures on Twitch. No, not Twitch, on OBS. That for some reason, minimizing the actual window will just kind of... No, to be fair, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. But... Yeah. But with that little hiccup all sorted, at the very least, the engine's opening up again. This is really just slow, and I didn't want things to take so long, and now it's just kind of putting a sour taste in my mouth. Oh, now that it's linked back. Oh, that's how that works. Interesting. Interesting, interesting. Right. There. Or it just wants to... Unreal, what are you doing? Now I'm wrestling with the editor itself. Why? Okay, right. So now if we go back to like this window with the editor. So if you see here, because things were built properly, the player character is still there. I'm gonna make a separate folder for everything. So if I can't here, I have to make it in the content folder. Right, so this folder is called game, and this will hold basically most of the stuff. Say blueprints. And then I'll just divide it into further categories, so player. And this will keep most of the player-centric things. So make a blueprint clear. Blueprint class. And then we make the blueprint for the player. Right. And if you're wondering why I backspace like twice, it's because this keyboard of mine is frustrating. And sometimes the B key does not input properly, and I need a new keyboard when I can. But as you can see, camera boom and main camera, as they were properly named in the code, are named this way in the editor. And yes, I understand there's no like character model there, but for now we'll use the simple like mannequin that's already in the project for the third person template for now, until like maybe later down the line I either make something or I find a like free asset that's very good for like prototyping things. And then ABP Quinn. There we go. Right. And now in this scene, I'm going to quickly whip up another important thing. So game modes. In Unreal, there's like, you can have a game mode for like an overall sort of overarching game mode, or you can have a game mode for particular scenes. So you'd have one for the main menu, you'd have one for the level, or the world select, or level select, or so on, and you can have them configured like to be on a scene by scene basis or a level by level basis. So I'm gonna make one based on the base game mode class and call it pp underscore say temp game mode, because this will only be a temporary one that we use basically just to get started with things. But we will set it in like the level, and then for default pawn class we can set it to the player. And while this isn't like at the moment any like too different from what the project had before, I mean the camera's closer, but as you can tell I mean, I don't know if you can hear me pressing my movement. Yeah, we can't move because we need to actually define like the input events, like, or the actual input maps and like the actions. So I'm gonna make a folder called input, and we're gonna get the input all sorted out next. So that stuff is found here. So imc underscore layer input, and that's the actual mapping context for, like, that basically stores, oh, all these are all the input actions, but and this is what, like, the values correspond to, or what triggers these input actions. But before that, we need input actions. So ia underscore player move input action ia underscore player jump. And as I said, there needs to be a look as well. Input action ia underscore player look. So this has to be an axis 2D for vector 2D. Oh yeah, while I'm at it, I'll explain. You can configure what value type it is. So if it's like it's only like a button press, then it's just a digital. If you're moving from left to right, like only, like in 2D, you just do it as like an axis one direction, or axis 1D, or one dimension. And then axis 2D would be like two-dimensional like movement. Say like you're moving forward and back, you would use this. And then axis 3D, I don't know why you would want to move in all three directions. Maybe you're making a plane or something, but or maybe you're doing something very interesting or funky with your controls. But we'd use axis 2D for the move as well. And then the only one we really need to leave intact is the jump, because jump is just a button press. So that just remains as a digital sort of Boolean press. So move will be the first one. And sorry if I'm using things for like references or anything, but I am trying to find third person input actions. Yep, now I remember. Right. So right, this is Swizzle and this is YXZ, which is the default. Which means like normally it would, like, the values would be like X, Y, Z, but Swizzle basically swaps the Y and the X so that you get like the first value is set as like Y instead of the X, which is important for moving forward and back, because you want it to be like put in this order so that whatever is the first value that is gotten is like the input from like forward and backwards. So this applies to both W and S. However, a second modifier needs to be applied to S, which is negate, which basically sort of like negative values and stuff. That's just basically all that is. It's just negative values and whatnot. So, and then for left and right, so I'm going to do right and left in that order. We don't need to swizzle the values, but for A, we do need to apply a negative value. So that's basically it for movement. That's literally all that needs to be set up. For the second one, we're going to... Oh, wait, no, that's IA move. That was the other one. Player move, that's what I called it. That still applies. player jump is literally just triggers, and we'll say pressed. Oh, whoops, I did not mean to delete them both. Pressed. So pressed is what we need for a trigger. And then IA player look. And I think it's mouse. Is it mouse X, mouse Y, or is it just the whole? Whoops. Mouse X, Y, 2. Right, it's the whole thing all in one. That's what it is. Right. So what we need is the mouse X, Y to the axis, and that essentially covers like mouse movement for looking around and stuff. So. Oh wait, no, because I'm on the mesh. That's why. Whoops. I was wondering what was going on, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to set things up properly. So we have to put these in here. Player jump and player look. And there is one step that I completely forgot about that I need to do in the begin play for the player character. And that involves me opening up another project again just to remember what the hell I have to do, because I keep forgetting. Occasionally I forget how to do this, which is not really good. So I'm going to open it with Notepad so I don't... Oh wait, no, that's the solution. That was source. Open with Notepad. So I'm opening it with Notepad so I'm not treading all over like the processing power of the CPU. So if control... Yeah. Right. I think I got... I don't think I did. So we need... Right. Just to look through... Right, so open with Notepad. Oh no, it's just kind of there by default. Whoops. So... back into Rider. I don't know why I'm like structuring this like I'm teaching when I'm not. I'm just trying to do stuff. But super begin play. No. I don't like the automatic suggestions sometimes. Because sometimes the like automatic suggestions for variable names are kind of they're not the greatest. So you enhanced input local player subsystem pointer subsystem. You local player get Rider? Hello? Right, it was taking a little bit of a moment. Right, so get local player and that's sorted. So if subsystem add mapping context, and we need to add the player default mapping context. Zero. Ah. Did it really? It turned live coding back on. The That's upsetting. But it's one action, so it shouldn't take so long to build. Then again, I can never tell with Unreal sometimes. Right. Except it's taking its time again. Let's see, let's go back into... Because I swear, I turned off live coding, but I guess I didn't save. Live coding. Oh, that's why. Apparently I hadn't restarted when it asked me to apply the settings. Or it didn't ask me to apply the settings to the... Also, why am I watching videos on Twitter when I'm just... I don't know why. I get distracted easily sometimes, which is kind of bad. It's pretty bad sometimes, but I do my best. I think one thing I would definitely need for, like, making sure I don't get distracted too much, because I feel like a lot of the time it's just kind of, like, stress stuff that, I get distracted with, is that I need something to kind of keep my mind off of things, otherwise I just never get anything done. There we go. Right, that's the editor preferences set up for Unreal. I'm gonna close Rider quick. Go back into the editor. Right. Right. And I don't want to reopen those. Tracing. Oh, what the hell is that? Right. Uh, it might be me being very, very impatient with this, because I don't know. Like, maybe I'm wanting to try and do more or have more things happen. Also, this is starting to get into the sadder songs. Why? Why? I hate you. I hate YouTube ads about AI. Oh, and I just realized it wasn't. Ah! I need to add an application audio capture. Pro Music. Because I realized that now. Oh, no! I completely forgot! That's awful. What really should have been happening whenever I don't know why. I don't know why I never realized this, but... See, now I know that the entire time I was in the editor, none of, like, the little music I was listening to was actually coming through. And it was only ever coming through when I was sort of focused on Ryder. That's just poor for me. That's just terrible. See, now that should be coming through, like, if I switch from one to the other. But I can't believe I did that. That was so disappointing. That's... Ah. Feel like I also need to clear out more of the bot accounts as well, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do that while I am just kind of... While I'm just basically here. And it's still compiling. I thought this was supposed to be quicker, but maybe it's just me being impatient. Hmm. I think maybe because of how long this is all taking and everything, I think I'm going to call stream here. Which is kind of sad because I was hoping to get so much more done, but obviously with the technical issues and everything that happened, it's sapping a little bit away from me. So for the sake of myself mentally, and not to be bogged down by everything else, I'll call it here. So thank you ever so much to everyone who showed up, to everyone watching things back on the VOD, either right here on Twitch or on YouTube, though this will definitely need to be stitched back together again because the stream is in 2 parts now. Great! So, but aside from that, thank you ever so much. As for next stream is on Friday, of course, and we'll be returning to Kingdom Hearts 1. Hopefully in that stream, or the next 2 streams after that, we finally complete the level 1 playthrough and we can move on. In terms of the game dev stuff, I will be returning to it, possibly for another break stream, but I need to sort out all of these technical problems because it really shouldn't be taking this long for things to compile or for, like, everything to just, like, load up, or some of the other technical issues that I had today, which is kind of disheartening, but I will attempt this again very soon in the future. But for now, thank you ever so much, and I hope to see you all again in the next